here's a step-by-step of what I want to do. The wheel is actually surprisingly fine. The tire, so it's a tire. So I'm going to leave that as is. I did replace the drum brake on the front because it was completely worn out. It's pretty much rusted and wasn't working. I tried to restore it and leave a little time-lapse video of what I've done, but it was pretty much done. So I just purchased an aftermarket from Amazon and just put it in here. Next up, I will service the headset. It's a really cool looking headset. You have a couple of nuts here holding it down, but you also have some hex bolts holding everything in place. So I think it's going to be a fun project trying to remove and service the bearings. Same thing I'll also do is service the bottom bracket completely. It's a cup and a cone design, so it's one of those older standards. I am going to leave those surface rust as is. I think it's not in the way, so I won't touch it. Same thing here, there is some surface rust here and there, which I'll probably just leave it as is. The seat and the seat posts though, they look pretty old and pretty much torn, so I'm going to replace them. The rear drum brake doesn't even work. Like if you notice this, it doesn't even move, like no matter how hard I try. So this has to be, I'll try to restore it, but probably will end up replacing as well. The chain is in pretty bad shape, so that's going to be cleaned and lubed properly. Any surface rust I'll try to clean up from the wheel as well. The pedals are actually quite good, original pedals obviously. 65mm crank. Everybody must have thought those were too short then. But anyway, let's get on with the restoration. So for initial part, I'm trying to fix the drum brake, the wheel hub bearings, as well as the brake levers and cables. The cable housings seem to be fine. Also, I didn't have spares, so I'm going to leave the cable housings in place. But I will remove the cables, service the brake levers, the brake drum itself, as well as the wheel hub bearings. The bolts aren't too seized. There is just a little bit of rust here and there, but overall they seem to be fine. Except the clips, it's a different story. The final nut that's holding the drum onto the brake housing onto the drum, that now comes off. You can tell it's a very old wheel, that because all the free bearings. I don't think anybody does free bearings now, at least not that I'm aware. You can see there's a lot of internal rust here. Probably that's the reason why this drum brake isn't working as expected. Now it's called a drum brake because there is a drum at the center, and the brake shoes you see here in the housing kind of rub against it and stop the bike. The drum is threaded onto the wheel itself, and this housing kind of goes on top of it. I used a degreaser to clean it up as much, and now I am removing the nut that's holding the brake shoes in place. Now the brake shoe does seem like there is some life left to it, but for whatever reason, either because of the old spring or whatnot, or just the shoe being contaminated, it just wasn't working as well. So I just tried to sand everything down, clean the outer housing, as well as clean the brake shoe itself. I used a wire wheel wherever I can to remove the loose rust or any surface rust that there is. Here I'm trying to remove any contaminants that might be on the brake shoe. At this point, it's about putting the brake back into its housing. If you expand the brakes, then you'll be able to slide the lever or pin that actually activates them into its place. Now I'm fixing the nut that holds the cable wire. I'm just using a Crown oil based rust inhibitor, and here is the drum you see that's fixed threaded onto the wheel. I sanded that down, used a slight rust converter onto it, and now I'm putting everything back. The bearings are held in place by the spindle, so as long as you have the spindle in there, they won't fall through. Now I'm putting the cable mechanism back into the place. Once I have this side threaded, I can use a zip tie to hold it in place and then flip it over and fix the bearings on the other side. And once you thread this side of the wheel, everything should be held in place. You don't need to super tight it because the outside nuts, as you put this wheel onto the bike, will pinch them together anyways. That's it for part 1. One thing I forgot, in spite of all of this, the drum mechanism did fail, so I ended up replacing the whole thing that I will show you in part 2. One of the brake levers clamp was broken, so while I look for a more permanent fix, for now I just used a DeLorean brake to replace that, and I'll cover that in part 2. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2.